Just want to welcome everybody here for another week of our book review. This is a fantastic book, and chapter 3, The Lie That I'm Not Good Enough. I don't know about you guys, but it sure spoke to me a lot on multiple levels. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Lori Kolberg. She is going to be facilitating tonight, giving us some of her great input, and then I'm trusting you guys all came ready and willing to share your thoughts as well. So Lori, thanks so much for doing this tonight.
Of course. So just a little background. So a couple of months ago, I saw this book at Sam's Club, and I had heard about it, and I think we were thinking about working on this book, but I opened to the table of contents and immediately started crying. And so I reached out and I said, are we going to work on this book? So it was this chapter, though, mainly that made me start crying, because this is kind of my main lie, is that I'm not good enough. But when I've thought about not good enough, it's been more in comparison, how I compare myself to other people. I'm not a good enough wife, I'm not a good enough mom, I'm not a good enough, employee, whatever. And I've got so many notes written down, but I just hope that this can all flow together. For Rachel, in her book, her feeling good enough came from a need to produce. Always being busy, having a hard time relaxing. She's a recovering workaholic. Before we get into the chapter, I just want you to be thinking about what defines your worth. What makes you feel important? If we lost everything we had, so what defines your worth is it really doesn't matter what we've read from this chapter. It's more about what we are going to be able to take away and implement in our lives. Sorry. All right, so let's dive into the chapter a little bit and hear more about her story. I know you've all read this, so she had the need to produce. If she wasn't producing something, she wasn't feeling accomplished. I know that I struggle with that as well, always feeling like I need to be doing something. And at the end of the day, sometimes I do or don't feel accomplished. So then she had some things happen to her, and she says, our bodies are incredible. They can do unbelievable things. They will also tell you exactly what they need if you're willing to listen. And if you're not, if you try to do too many things, your body will shut down. Have you guys had any experiences like this? And before we move on, there's actually a discussion guide, and I don't know how to get us all to that discussion guide later, but the questions that I'm going to be pulling are from this discussion guide that she herself has created. So I feel pretty lucky that it came out or I found it today for my turn. It says, have you ever had an experience where your body informed you of an emotional problem in your life? So I'd love to hear some of your experiences with that.
I'll share. When I was 22, I was real young. I got an ulcer, which you don't think about really young people getting, but it was because I had taken on so much responsibility that I was not really equipped to manage, but I just kept pushing. And even, I hadn't thought about it until now, but even looking back on that right now from this perspective, it was from that point of view of having to prove myself, to prove that I was able, to prove that I was worthy of the responsibility. And so you just keep pushing beyond what is reasonable. And then the body rebels. And my body rebelled via an ulcer, and it took quite a while for that actually to heal.
Thank you. I think one of the sentences of this chapter that keeps coming to mind is that she had this vertigo and she was having a physical response to an emotional problem. And this is a really hard chapter for me to share right now because this is actually happening to me right now. And I don't feel like I'm in my own body right now. I am struggling with some things, and so this chapter is really hard. And it is hard to feel like I'm good enough when I haven't been able to do the things that I normally do. Anybody else have any experiences they want to share?
I can share, Lori. It's probably been a little over a year now. I just had a lot of significant stress, everything from at home to at work. We had lost some family members at that time, and instead of doing what I should have done and probably talking to someone about how I was feeling, I just kind of let it bottle up. And I thought, it'll go away. I'll be able to deal with it on my own. And I started having severe panic attacks. And I would be at work talking to a patient, and all of a sudden I can't breathe. And fortunately, I knew what it was because my sister and my mother both have anxiety. So when it was happening, I knew what it was, but I couldn't control it. And it was making things even worse because it kind of showed me that I couldn't control everything that was going on. And then my body was responding in a way that kind of told me, you can't control this. You need to take a step back, and you need to let somebody else take some of the pain away, or take some of the stress from work off of my shoulders, because I was really overdoing it.
Thank you. And I mean, I feel like in this chapter, Rachel says she's had a lot of therapy, and I feel that she's was able to find out where this all stemmed from. I mean, I don't know that all of us always know where this stems from, if we have this physical response to an emotional problem. So she really advocates for therapy, get a good therapist, and that's what's really helped her a lot. Let's see. I just feel like I really want us to focus on what we can take away from this chapter. How is your week or your life going to be different because you've read this chapter? And it's like Amy was saying to us earlier, it'll speak to us differently. All right, so let me just get back into the chapter a little bit. So after she has this vertigo, she finds out that this doctor's he's a homeopathic doctor. He's not going to give her medicine. He's going to send her home and tell her to do nothing. This is very, very hard on her. It gives her anxiety. She doesn't know, but it's going to be bad. And she says, talk about life-altering moments. But what she ends up doing is she forces herself to stop working so much. She starts doing things that are joyful. She looks for joy, and she looks for peace. And she gives a whole list of things that she does to help her kind of to get that balance back and that perspective that she had lost because she was working so much. So what kinds of things do you guys do to help you have balance? What are some of the joys in your life that are helping you feel good enough and taking a break maybe from working and those kind of things?
For me, I try to take like me time. So it can be anything as simple as like going to get my nails done. And when my kids were smaller, I used to take them with me. And now I'm like, no, you don't get to go. You have to stay home because like I just need that me time. Or like at work, I used to walk every single day, just on my break, just walk. And that helps too, just getting out and doing that. And during the walk, I would walk with a friend, or if I was walking alone, I could pray or whatever it was that I was doing at that time. But just getting some me time really helps. And then my husband and I try really hard to do date nights every once in a while. So that helps too. And I noticed that that was on her list, like dating her spouse and things like that. But what really got me was her, I can't remember exactly how she says it because I listened to the Audible. I don't have the book. But when she was like, you try really hard, you strive as hard for the fun moments as you do for everything else. And that's key. So like, I'll put my phone away and not look at it and just make time with the girls when we're having family time and do things like that. So those things really help out when you have different segments of time. Some for me and my husband, some for the whole family, things like that.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot about getting that balance, and sometimes that can be hard. So having that little time away can recharge your batteries and give you the energy to battle that ever-growing to-do list. One thing she did as well was she reordered her list. Women actually don't put themselves on their priority list. You know, we don't have those things at the top. It usually ends up being at the bottom. But I think of like the oxygen mask on an airplane. You have to put your own on first, and then you put on your child's. It says you cannot take care of others well if you're not first taking care of yourself. And one of the best ways to ensure that you stop trying to run from your problems is to face them head on. And that is not going to be easy. That's a lot of work in and of itself. I mean, she doesn't talk about how much work it was to do these therapy sessions, you know, but I'm sure it was really hard to go through that. One of the questions in the discussion guide is, where do I tend to fail when it comes to taking care of myself? So what are you guys lacking? What could you do better at?
Lori.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that this is exactly answering your question, but it's something I thought of when you were just talking. One of the things that she had said is to discover that your world doesn't implode without you going 100 miles an hour. And I think, you know, as women and as mothers, and possibly if we have other jobs, so I'm a teacher, we feel like if we're not going 100 miles per hour, we're not doing what we need to do. We're not helping everybody that we need to help, those kinds of things. And I will never forget the direct sales company that I worked with before I joined Plexus. It was going out and doing parties. It was taking myself away from my family and my home, but I'll tell you, that was the best thing I could have done for my family and my home. My husband was very capable of taking care of the kids. They had a great time while mom was away. It gave them time to spend together. And although he was crazy busy and I thought, oh, I don't know that I can do this, it was an amazing thing. And I just kept encountering women who kept saying, I'm not able to do that because I can't leave my kids, or I can't, you know, my family needs me. Well, it's actually an okay thing to go away or to go out or to have a girls' night out, that sort of thing. And I think a lot of times we forget that.
Yeah, like I said, she said it's important to recharge our batteries. So anybody else?
So I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kathy, then
Oh,
Venetia.
I would say I can relate to what Stacy was saying because I used to do the home parties, and granted my youngest came with me, but like that was our one-on-one time, and it was my get out of the house time. And when it ended, I went complete opposite. Like it's been what, almost 3 years, and I've become the opposite of constantly busy. I'm like constantly like, nope, I'm gonna sit on the couch and do me now. And I kind of took it a little too far, probably, about, you know, making it about me. But I feel better about life now because I'm not so worried about everyone else and being constantly on the go. Because when you're constantly on the go, your body will shut down. Like nothing as drastic as what she had or what you guys have said, but it would shut me down and I would sleep for days. And nothing was getting done while I was sleeping. So what made me think that the world was going to end when I wasn't doing something when I was awake? So it is peaceful to start putting yourself first.
So how did you feel like good enough on those days when you weren't doing anything, like when you were sleeping? because I struggle with that, just feeling like enough if I'm not producing, or
it was hard for me, and I think a lot of it I went that downward at the same time that my mom passed away. So like I was in my own grief and I was in my own world at the same time that I was learning to just stop and not be constantly doing all the time, because I was as soon as my feet hit the floor until nap time, I was constantly going, and then it was like, until bedtime. And I don't know, I don't really, there's times I feel guilty about it. Like if I come home and my daughter's doing cleaning and I'm sitting on the couch, I'm like, I guess I'll get up and help her clean now. But it got to the point where I had to just let it all go. I had to let the guilt go. And I think, like I said, part of it was being in my own little world of grief. I didn't see what was going on around me. And so it kind of made it easier when I came out of that grief to just say, you know what? That's not important. That is not going to be a priority. I'm not going to run myself ragged anymore. But like I said, I do get to the point where I have to force myself to get up and do stuff, because being lazy feels good sometimes. A little too good.
Yeah. Benisha, did you still want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say it's really hard for me to do nothing. Like I've read the whole book, but I listened to the chapters on my way home. And so I listened to it right before I got home, and she was like, just do nothing. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to lay on the bed until the call starts and do nothing. And I couldn't do it. So I just don't know how to do it. So when I give myself me time, like I have to be doing something like my nails or reading a book or something like that. I just can't do nothing. I just don't know how to do it physically. It drives me nuts.
And that's kind of what's going on with me right now, is I'm not able to do the things I normally do. And I don't want to start crying on this chapter. I'm really trying not to, but it's really hard on me because I know what I need to do and I'm not doing it. And I can't, it's hard to feel okay with that when you know what you could or should be doing. The whole, I don't know if you guys have ever heard that statement. It's kind of funny, but sometimes people say you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And so I like this saying that says don't should on me, because we're doing the best that we can. So
Lori, something that she talked about also was that concept of the onion, unlayering the onion.
Yeah.
And I think so often our busyness is kind of intrinsically wrapped up in our sense of worth and our sense of value. And so I think part of understanding why we do so much, and that is me. I'm busy all the time, busy. I have to be doing something for whatever reason. So I think each of us have to kind of unlayer that within ourselves, because just hearing you say, I can't do this, I'm not able to do this, but I should be. If you can't, you shouldn't be. If you're in a place where you need to be stepping back and not doing those things right now for your well-being, for whatever, then that's what you should be doing and not the other things. And so I think part of those other things of why we need to be busy, why we have to be helping others, why we need to be taking care of all those things, I think that's what we need to start peeling back to understand, what is that about? What is it that is so important in our life that we feel like there's something wrong with us if we're not doing it? And so I think that's probably where she starts talking about the therapy, how that is helpful, because it's helping us to unpeel those layers and getting down to the bottom. And I think once you get to the bottom, it's a matter of retraining yourself into how to take care of yourself, how to slow down, how to not do all of those things, how to do the things that feed us and meet our needs. It then becomes easier to make those decisions because we know those are then the right decisions, as opposed to a lot of the other things.
You have such a way with words. You're so good. I know, and I think that's why she talks about therapy. She says, if I had never gone to therapy, I would have never understood the connection between my childhood insecurities and my adult accomplishments. And so I don't think I'm there yet. I haven't figured it all out yet, but definitely there's some reason that I, will have to find out of why I don't feel enough if I'm not doing this, and this. And I think a lot of it comes to down to comparison, seeing your friends, or, you know, even having a plan and then your plan doesn't go how you thought it was going to go. That's about, what else do you guys have? It's 8:20. I think one of the things she says again in this discussion guide is, do you relate to Rachel's description of her workaholism? If not, is there a similar habit or commitment in your life that contributes to your stress or gets in the way of healthy living? And I think that's a good thing to think about. I don't know if anybody has an experience with that. And we may have already touched on that. But I honestly feel like the biggest key, or the biggest takeaway, and this would be for me anyway, is that she says, I studied the gospel and finally grasped the divine knowledge that I am loved and worthy and enough as I am. And she says, and I listened to it today, I have the Audible also, and the part that made me cry is that she said, I am a child of God, and that trumps everything else. And in my faith and religion, we even have a song that's titled, I am a child of God. We also recite a motto that says, I am a daughter of a heavenly Father who loves me, and I love him. And so we've talked a lot in other groups and book clubs about affirmations. And one of the affirmations from the Secret Code of Success says, why am I good enough just as I am, or, you know, as I am. And so if we can give ourselves some credit and you know, we can't move on until we know where we're at, right? That's kind of what the whole book is about. So any other thoughts from anybody?
I just wanted to say, I think most of the time we are the hardest on ourselves. And I've been struggling with that lately a lot because, see, I'm going to start crying, but I'm trying to, I think I'm making it too difficult because I know what I need to do, like in Plexus and other things I'm doing. I know what I need to do, but I don't know. I'm just kind of up in the air right now. And so, Lori, when you were talking, I'm just like, that sounds like what I'm going through right now. But I know what I need to do. I just need that swat on the butt or something. Anyway, but, you know, I think that we're really rough on ourselves, and it's really hard when we're not doing the things that we know we need to do. And so then it makes me go backwards a little more because, anyway, I don't know how to word it, but
I totally understand what you're saying. I feel the same way. Even though you may not have all the words, I totally know what you mean. But
so I want to throw out a plug for therapy, not from a therapist. Because if you go to a really good therapist, the skill that they have in helping you figure things out is by letting you figure things out. And I think sometimes we tend to just internalize, hold things in, we struggle in our head, we struggle in our heart, where sometimes if we will just tap into a good friend, somebody that we respect, whether it's business or otherwise, and you just open up and start talking. Sometimes just a well-placed question will help you to think from a different perspective or think a little bit deeper. And I think most of the time we have the answers within ourselves. We don't need anybody telling us. We just need to keep digging until we get down to that core, down to that root, and start pulling it up and finding those answers ourselves. And, you know, we talk a lot about our struggles, but most of the time it's because we keep those struggles inside of us rather than getting them out there and trying to help think them through and to find the answers to them. So that is something I know I've been doing more, is just finding someone to talk with about it and process it. And then we, most of the time, will find our own answers.
And I think a lot of times people, you know, they say, how are you? And you say fine. And fine does not mean you are fine. Opposite usually, right? There's actually a acronym, or fine. It means this is bad. Effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Usually that's how you're really feeling when someone asks if you're, when you say, I'm fine, So I think it is very important for us to be more real with each other. I think that's something that I have learned, even in the Plexus journey, is, being more vulnerable. And I do feel such a support system, and I feel that I can be more real and more open. And that's huge, just to have that. But yeah, if we can find a friend and we can open up, and I think that's really important too.
And I've found sometimes you just need to be still and be quiet and just really think about things deep within you. That helps a lot too.
I think we need to remember that we're not alone, because the more we even do these, the more I hear similar situations, and it really makes you feel like you're not alone in just having a community of women in this instance, but to help you, if you're real with each other, you can feel like your situation, you're not alone in it, and you have a support. So that's awesome.
And it's nice because with what Amy said too, if you do kind of use a friend as your therapist and you open up to them, they might be going through the exact same thing that you're going through, and they were bottling it up too. So not only can you make yourself feel better by confiding in someone, but then they can do the same thing to you. And, we are very fortunate in the Plexus business that we do have that support system, because a lot of us are going through the same things. So it does make it easier to open up to each other.
Can I mention when Lori was talking about just kind of having the quiet time and the quiet moment? I am so not a meditation girl at all. Although I have found there was actually a commercial on TV for an app called Calm. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but I went to it and it is amazing. And it's just like a 10-minute thing. And I typically will do it at the beginning of my morning. But it's like meditating for success, meditating for, and it's all different kinds of things that you can go through a 1 week kind of lessons within that. And the thing is I haven't paid for it yet, but I'm going to. I was doing a trial. You can only do like the first day of each one. So I've just been doing the first day of each day. So I haven't really gotten through a whole week's worth of the same topic, but I'm really enjoying just day one of all the different topics. So something to check out. It's called Calm.
So I just want to encourage all of you to work on the affirmation, why am I good enough as I am? I know for me, in my situation, I've really focused on being grateful and positive and focusing on the things that I can do, because it really has been easy to get myself down on the things that I'm not doing or I'm not able to do. And just everybody remember that you're a child of God, and you are loved, you are enough, and you are worthy. The end. Amen. Just kidding. All right.
Amen to that.
We will not be here next week because of Rachel Hollis has an event. It's at local theaters, so you guys can check to see if you have it at yours. It's called For More. She had 2 showings, and the second one is on the 13th. So I realized that was a Monday night, and some of the rest of us were going as well. So we'll pick it back up on the 20th with chapter 4. And
Thank you, Lori. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank
good
you.
chapter, that's for
Thank
sure.
you.
Lots to think about. All right, I think I'll hit leave. Oh, you got it, Whitney? All right.
Thank
All right,
you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Lori.
For sure.